Hi, it's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and this is CRAP video number 27. And CRAP stands for Creative Relaxation and Play, where I experiment with a technique or a new product and see what I get. Sometimes it's awesome, sometimes it's crap. Today, I've got this idea that I want to make my own material. Now, I've tried making my own material fabrics what I'm talking about, before using other methods. I've just finished watching a series of videos about how batik material is made, and so I'm going to try and do sort of a faux batik. Now, this is completely off the cuff here. I have no idea what I'm doing. I do know that what I want to do is create fabric paint using liquid acrylics mixed with a fabric painting medium. Now, GAC 900, I did have a fair amount of this at one point in time, but I must have used it up when I was making some fabric paint another time back there. So I don't have very much of this left. But I do have this bottle by Ranger called Clear Fabric Medium, which is basically the same kind of thing. It doesn't really tell you on the back how much of this to mix with whatever other medium you're using, in my case the fluid acrylics. So I'm just going to have to eyeball it. And this is going to be a multi-stage process. The first process I'm going to do is I have a piece of canvas. This is unbleached, unprepared, so it means there's no gesso on this canvas. And I'm just going to apply color, these three colors, using cosmetic sponges all over this one side of this piece of canvas. And then I'm going to let it dry and probably do the back side, or I may not do the back side. I may just leave the back side, just the plain canvas to start with. And then I'm going to maybe do some stencil work on it using fabric paints again, ones that I create. And after that dries, I might do some rubber stamping, actually using art foamies for some design around it. The whole idea of this is to create a material that I can use later in a project like making a tote bag or something like that. That's why I'm using canvas this time around, because I want something strong. Have no idea how this is going to work. I have no idea how long this is going to take. So I'm going to do the very first thing, which is to mix up my paints with some of this fabric medium and then apply it to this piece of canvas. So I will be back once I've got my paints mixed up. Okay, so I've mixed up my three colors, and I don't have a lot of paint in here, but I don't think I need a whole lot. But I've mixed them up with the fabric medium, just giving them another little stir here. And in order to use the makeup sponges and dab it across here, I think I'm going to use a piece of deli paper as my palette, and I'm just going to pour some of the paint out. And I'll just start with one color. And one makeup sponge, and see what's happening. Now what I've got underneath this piece of canvas, because this will probably soak through to a certain extent, is just some wax paper and a sheet of newsprint as well, just to make cleanup a little easier. So I'm just going to I'm really not focusing on doing a specific design, although I am thinking I might go in this sort of diagonal pattern. And of course I'm getting variations in depth of color here, darker in some spots, a little lighter than in others. But I won't worry about that. Okay, so now I think I'll apply my next color. I have a little yellow here. Take another makeup sponge. And of course, wherever the yellow touches the blue, we're going to get more of a green shade. But that's okay. I'm going to kind of treat this like I would an art journal page. I'm going to have layers. So the first layer, of course, is just to get down some background color that I can work on. And I think I need some more yellow. So I'm going to carry on with this. And so I'm just going to pause the video here and come back when I've got all the color on this background. Okay, so I took a heat gun to this, and this is pretty much dry to the touch anyways. And I'm going to do some stencil work on it now to break up the pattern. So I picked this chevron stencil, and I'm just going to put it up here so it's a little bit off the fabric. And I think I'm going to give it a little spray with repositionable spray. And this will just help to keep my paint from seeping through or underneath the stencil. I've mixed up some white. Again, I used the fabric medium from Ranger. I'm just going to pour it out here. I made a little bit more of this than I did of the other colors. And I'm going to use a makeup sponge again. And just gently, I'm going to go through the stencil. I'm not going to try to cover the whole stencil. And I did get a little bit leaking underneath, but I'm not going to worry about that. I think to avoid it leaking underneath, I dab a little off of my sponge. I may have mixed up more paint than I really need for this. And I think I'm going to go over the entire piece. Before I thought I'd just put it in certain areas, but I'm kind of liking how it looks. And I'm going off the edge of the fabric as well. So that it looks like there's a continuous piece here. Kind of said that those blops where the paint went under when I first started doing this under the stencil, I wasn't going to, weren't really bothering me, but actually they are bothering me. But I think once I get another layer of like stamping on this, I think those will disappear, or at least not be quite as pronounced. Not much I can do about it right now, so live with it. And this last corner. Now I'm not sure if this will absorb into the material through the other layer of paint and become a little bit less pronounced. We'll see. If it does, I can add another layer. Okay, let's let that dry. Okay, so now this is dried. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to print a design on here using an art foamy stamp. And this is what I'm going to use. And I've already mixed up some black this time with my medium, my fabric medium. And I have it mixed up here in the cup. And I'm going to use the little stamp buddy that comes with the art foamies. And I'm going to use it sort of as my palette. I'm going to pour some of the black paint on here, brayer it on, and then I'll be able to just brayer it right onto my stamp. Now I could probably also just stamp it in here like a stamp pad. We'll see how that goes. So, excuse me. So let's get some paint on here. And we've got our brayer. And I want to get a good coating of paint on this. And now let's just push that over to one side. Now I'm not so sure about the brayering, is that a word, onto this, but I think what I'll do is I'll use it as it was intended to be used, like an ink pad. That looks pretty good. And I'm just going to go right across my canvas. and I'm not that concerned about getting a perfect impression each time, because really you can't tell. And I'm going right off the canvas so that the pattern looks like it's continuous. Now you can see a little paint goes a long way on this little pad. Okay. And I'm going to let that dry. And then I might do one more thing. And since I had a little bit of paint left over, I thought I wouldn't waste it. I just simply took some printed scrapbook paper and I just printed over on top of that, and that'll be for something for future use. Okay, the last thing I'm going to add to this is just some splashes or some, specks, splatter, using white paint. And for this, when I mix it up, I'm just going to take a little bit of the paint, put it on my wax paper here, and I'm just going to add a little bit of the fabric medium. And I'm just going to take a fan brush and mix this together. Now I think I may have to add just a little bit of water to get this soupy enough that I can splatter it. Trouble with splatters is you can't control where they're going to go. And essentially, I'm doing the same thing as I would do on an art journal page. Okay, I think I've got enough on there, and I've got enough on everything else as well. So I'm going to clean this up. The next thing is I'm finished this piece of fabric. I like the result, but now will it stand up to water? The whole point of mixing this with the paint was to make it a fabric paint that is washable. Mind you, since I did this on canvas, I'm not going to be using this in something like a garment or a quilt or something like that that might get washed. I want to use it as a tote bag. Out of this little one, I might make just a little small bag just to start with, a little zippered bag. But I have to wait for 72 hours, it says, for all of this to cure. And then I will wash it, but I'll wash it by hand and see how that turns out. Okay, it's now been 72 hours where this has been sitting and drying. And so now comes the water test. I'm going to take it into to a sink. I'm going to fill up a sink with just warm water, and I'm going to get this all wet. I'm going to wring it out a couple of times, see if any of the color bleeds, and we'll see how that holds up, and I'll be back to show you. And here it is, all in a big bowl. I used some warm water. I didn't put any detergent in. I just used warm water in a sink. I let this sit in there and soak it up a little bit, and then I wrung it out a couple of times, and this is what happened. Nothing. The colors stayed. There wasn't any bleeding in the water whatsoever. Water stayed clear when I put it in. And yeah, so this stuff, this fabric, this is a different one. I got a new bottle in the last 72 hours of fabric medium, does make your paints stable for washing. Now, a real test of this would be to throw it into a washing machine with detergent, let it go through a full cycle and see what happens. But I'm not going to do that because I don't intend for any of the material that I'm making using this method as garment material or anything like that. And this, of course, is on canvas, so it's a heavier material. I'm going to throw it in the dryer, let it dry, and then I'll just press it. But yeah, it works. So what am I going to do with this piece? I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to make it into a little zippered pouch. My idea is that I'm going to use that zippered pouch for things I carry to sewing classes or things like that. Some of my scissors, my rotary cutters, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm going to do with this little piece. But I'm going to make larger pieces and make those into, I think, tote bags to start with. And we'll see. This might make good placemats too, because canvas is very stiff, but then you'd want to put it in the washing machine. So I'm not so sure about that. I might. But anyways, there's better materials for making placemats. So I hope you enjoyed this crap video. And I had a lot of fun making this. And because it's just like doing an art journal page, except on a piece of material. So you might want to give this a go. Hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it helpful. And we'll see you the next time I put up a crap video. Bye-bye for now.